Hey, 3A, because I happen to be gone again on another A day, I decided to take another opportunity to create a lovely little screencast for you so you can still get the mini lesson, still get everything that the B Day crew got so you guys aren't behind. So hopefully this works out okay. I have the agenda for today posted on the whiteboard and on Classroom, and the substitute has everything that you need to be doing today as well. But this should be the first thing that you work on today. So you should still have your notebook and your book out and ready to go. My mini lesson today kind of takes your reader's notebooks to the next level. So you might want to plan to have a little bit more time to write than normal. Okay. You'll see from my title page here that session 4 is all about explaining thinking. So I've kind of been just kind of randomly looking at notebook pages and just checking as I've been in class. I've taken a few home, and I've just even been listening as you talk, to your friends and talk at your tables about the ways in which you're responding in your notebooks. And I'm really, really proud. But I've noticed something kind of interesting, when I've just been listening and kind of watching, and that is that a lot of you say really insightful things when you are explaining your notebook page to somebody else. But then when I look at the page, I find that the thinking often isn't captured as much in the writing. Part of it might just be because I'm not familiar with everyone's books, but I know you have really insightful analyses, but when I look at the pages, sometimes I feel like there's a disconnect. So I have a few examples today that we're going to look at and kind of study so you can kind of get a feel for what I'm getting at. So this is a sample notebook page from another student. And so even if you're not familiar with this particular book, you can kind of view this notebook page and try to figure out what exactly is going through his mind, or even just in the book in general when you're looking at this page. So the drawing with all of the circles and the person in the middle and the spiky bubble in the middle and the arrows on the outside, altogether it's pretty cool and, I don't know, kind of mysterious. But you can't really tell that the author of this page is onto something really big, that he's kind of hit maybe the theme of his book, or he's got a really big, maybe new idea, and it's not really represented here. So I was actually able to talk with the student and kind of see what exactly was going on here and what this image really represented. And he was really interested in exploring that the main character, this Radiant Boy, is a really complicated character. And so the arrows around on the outside of his diagram show that he thinks the Radiant Boy is turning good. This is a pretty, profound thing to maybe find at this particular point in his book. Um, but there isn't any writing that really expands or explains this big idea. Okay, so he thinks his character is turning good. What am I supposed to do with that? Why is that important? There's really nothing explaining it. So this particular student really needs to go a step further and not just collect information that can help him grow ideas, but he also needs to write to grow and explain those ideas. And to do that kind of writing, it will really help if he takes just a second before he starts writing and really asks himself, how will my writing about this go? And what kind of writing will it be? So we've kind of just been picking random ways to respond in our notebooks, and it's kind of become an afterthought, and that's okay. But maybe today, as you transition from reading in your books to responding in your notebooks today, ask yourself that question. Okay, so you have some sort of a goal. So now we have a reading goal and we have a writing goal. So I have another sample for you that I want you to take a look at. This is another student's notebook page, and they were reading the book Matilda. Many of you have probably seen the movie. It's a little bit older, But this person was reading the book, and if you just kind of look, even just for a few seconds, you can kind of maybe get a feel for what she was going after in this, I don't know, graph or this like chart. Um, I see the main character Matilda in the middle, and then some of the names in pink on the outside are obviously other characters. And then it looks like in the green is how Matilda is related or connected to them. So she has kind of gone a step further and is at least kind of color coded, at least for herself, to kind of have some consistency with her drawings. Um, they tell you a little bit about the characters themselves, or maybe just how Matilda feels about these particular characters. Like, obviously, she thinks really highly of Miss Honey, who is kind, intelligent, and open minded. Um, but Trunchbull, which is the headmistress or the principal, is selfish, powerful, and maybe more hot headed. So maybe you're wondering, about the characters. Maybe some of you are wondering about how Matilda feels about these different people and why they matter. But we can't really do any sort of a comparison, and we can't really do anything beyond that because you don't really know what this writer's big thinking is yet. She's got all kinds of things on her mind, and maybe she's got a hunch about a particular character, but without anything added to this drawing, we don't really know what it is. Okay? So, in taking these two examples of notebook pages and thinking about maybe what you have in your notebook right now, I really want you to focus today on explaining your thinking. So, when you're writing about your reading, you should expect that you will come to some new ideas. Not only will you get further in your book, but the more that you're maybe focused on one particular action or one particular character, you're going to start learning new things or just kind of being more aware of certain things, even if this is a book you've read before. So as you write, be sure that your thinking and those big ideas are truly explained and developed. And sometimes the easiest way to do that is to do a little bit of free writing so that they can explain big ideas and others can grasp their thinking. So that's really wordy. And we only have 3 notebook entries so far. So what I want you to do is look across your notebook and find a page where you could have explained your thinking more than you did. Maybe it was a sketch or a chart or a few post-its, but you didn't really have a chance to write long. Maybe you were so into your book or you had 50 pages to read that day and you just scrambled to get something in your notebook. Um, Open your notebook to that particular page and stay there. When you have that page then in front of you, look at it for a second and ask yourself, what was I thinking when I made this page? So sometimes it just takes that extra time to really focus or remember what it was in that particular day's worth of reading that happened. Once you realize that you've thought or discussed more than you've captured on the page, you need to return to that page and add more thinking. Until you really push yourself to explain it, you might just have some vague ideas or just some quick jots about a potentially huge part of your book. If you're forced to really write more about it, you're going to be able to capture your thinking, but I think you'll be able to kind of develop new thinking and new ideas as well. So far we've mostly been writing brief notes to save some time for reading. It makes sense sometimes to write really like cryptic or really quick notes just so that you can keep up and keep reading in your book. But in the end, the most important thing about your reading is not the fact that the words um, kind of flood into your eyes and just as you read, but instead, the important thing about your reading is that you take the words and ideas and stories and experiences that are there on the page and you make something of them that adds up, that matters to you, and that stays with you. It is because your response to reading is every bit as important as the reading itself. We're going to kind of amp up the writing time. Really, the bulk of class lately has been 45 minutes of reading, and I still want you to have plenty of time to read. But today, your response for day number 4 should be at least a full page in your notebook. That means you have to really push yourself to think about what you're trying to say in your response, why it's important, and how you can kind of capture that thinking and also relay it to your readers, mainly me. I haven't read everyone's books, so you need to really push yourself to explain things to me so that I can kind of see what big ideas you're onto, what questions you might have, what theme that you might potentially be onto. Okay, so continue jotting notes or charts or using post-its as you read, but also make sure that you're really explaining your thinking today. Okay, I cannot stress that enough. You can continue to jot down notes, use post-its, do quick drawings, whatever it is that helps you follow along as you read. But when it comes time to respond to day 4's reading, you need to push yourself. Go to that spot and say, what am I really trying to say here, and how can I explain my thinking? This is the part of my little screencast where we're going to want to put this into your notes. So I'm going to switch over to this document. This is exactly how you can explain your thinking. I put in my subnotes and in the agenda for today on Classroom that you needed to take notes. This would be a good time to pause the screencast and make sure you have numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4, all 4 here, in your notebook on the left-hand side. Okay? Again, this is a really good spot to pause the screencast and make sure you have all 4 items here from my list of how to explain your thinking. After you've taken the notes, you can move on to reading for day 4. Make sure you're staying on pace. It is a Friday, so if you get behind or want to catch up over the weekend, make sure you take your books home with you. Make sure that you are doing just this that's on the screen right now in your reading responses today. So day 4, I should see a solid page worth of writing. Explain your thinking to me. Study a response and keep writing about your thinking. Ask yourself, did I make that thinking clear on the page? Okay, if I'm not reading your book, would I understand that? If you didn't make it clear, then ask yourself, what new thinking is this work leading me to? Do I have new ideas? Think of it as explaining it to me, and expect your thinking to develop as you write. As your pencil keeps moving on the page, you will be surprised at how many new ideas kind of just seem to appear. Okay? So reading day 4, response for day 4. There's one other document if you have time for today to look at on Google Classroom, but stick to the agenda that's on the board and on Classroom. Have a great day. Feel free to email me with questions. I will try to get to you if I'm not too busy at the spa. Miss you guys. See you next week. Bye-bye.